sign from falling over. That penguin is us, right? Our job is to find balance within all this wacky stuff that is not the same on the left and the right? This asymmetrical stuff. So I was curious, is centered type dead? Do you think? I see some skeptical looks there. Yeah, so this is like, we used to do centered, now it's like, complicated. We make people chase type all over the page. So sometimes I go to the Strand bookstore in New York City, or even just your favorite airport bookstore, or any bookstore. If they have a bookstore still in college, good. So go to the bookstore and ask yourself, is centered type dead? And you will find that so many beautiful book covers have centered type. And they become active and impactful through the size of the font, through the treatment of the scale, through color, through just sheer power of imagery. And this one's actually about like balance and weight. I love it. It's like demonstrates itself. But we also see lots of asymmetrical designs because nature is full of things that aren't the same on the left and right, things that are organic. Rocks and stones and corals and teapots and your income tax form. All kinds of functional things, natural things. And asymmetry is interesting because it throws us off balance, right? It makes us question. Right, it creates a kind of motion. Wow, look at this incredible book cover about grief. All these letters are bearing down on the author, right, who is experiencing grief. And one thing is in the center, right, the word grief. That's the penguin holding it all together. And sometimes we can mix symmetry and asymmetry, and I really love that. The human form is basically symmetrical, except we've got a heart on the left and a liver on the right. There's lots of stuff in there that doesn't match. I love this book cover that kind of does both. Or this beautiful page from this book called Animals Without Backbones, which I highly recommend to you, that has a central spine, but different things happening on each side. So many things in life, we expect them to be centered, but it's fun to try the same thing, not centered. Why not? Type Mom wants to tell you about rag typography. Right, so if you're setting your type flush left, rag right, you may have some problems, and she wants to help you solve them. Oh no, it's rag time. Flush left text has even, natural word spacing because it isn't forced to fill up a box. This uneven edge is called a rag. The right edge should be soft and organic, with no very short or very long lines. A bad rag looks too even, or it makes strong shapes like diving boards, moons, or stair steps. But how do I fix it? To fix one bad rag, change some of the line breaks by hand, or rewrite the text if appropriate. If you are seeing too many bad rags, make the column wider or make the type smaller. Bad rag, better rag. Bad rag, better rag. Rags. Let's make them beautiful. You can do it, right? Yeah. Another thing about the new edition of Thinking with Type is it's more inclusive. So the old editions, when you open it up, there's this list of fonts inside the book. And I created that list because I felt like for a student, it'd be so useful to have right there like some good fonts to use. And many of these are fonts that I was told in school were the good fonts, right? They had been tested by history, they were high quality, they have cultural credibility behind them. They're like the important fonts. And when I looked at this list doing the new edition, I thought, wow, that is a canon. You know, a canon is a limited list of the best things. And a canon always leaves out a lot of other things. And so when I made the new book, I felt like from the very minute you open it, it should suggest that good typography is bigger than that list. And so here's how the new book opens. By making it a gatefold and filling it with fonts in different writing systems, and fonts by women, and fonts by designers of color, and fonts from different parts of the world, it says, typography won't fit just inside the front cover. It's bigger. We have to keep opening it up. This is how the section on anatomy looks in the older editions. And now it looks like this. And this. And this. And this. And I really enjoyed working with experts in these writing systems to create diagrams that explain the special beauty of different writing systems. So this is a Chinese character. We already talked about they fit in a square. And a Chinese character has a center of gravity. And it's not right in the middle. It's up here at the heart. And each character kind of floats, right? Its center point is high. And if you compare that to the Latin alphabet, Latin letters are all about sitting on the baseline, right? This is one of the first things you learn about typography is the importance of the baseline. And that's a certain kind of beauty. And Chinese characters are a different kind of beauty. And I think it's really important when we learn typography to recognize these different ways that characters live and look and behave and interact with each other. So in Arabic, when a designer wants to fill out a line, they extend the length of some of the characters instead of adding space. So Latin typography is all about space, kerning, leading, tracking, right? All those things are about adjusting space. Arabic writing is all connected. So it has a different through line that determines how you design with these letters, these characters. And we can see things like that similar in Latin typography. These are the beautiful titles for Pablo Ferro's film, Stanley Kubrick's film, Dr. Strangelove, designed by Pablo Ferro. And he created these hand-drawn letters where he changed the proportion of the letters to always make this beautiful block. And it's a transparent kind of block that we can see these airplanes, they're mating behind the typography there. And it's just one of the most beautiful, perfect little typographic solutions. And it's all about that changing of proportion without changing the weight, right? And there's a really cool flexible font that does that today using variable font technology, where this font is designed so that you can change the width or the height, you can change the proportion without messing up the weight of the font, which is ugly, right? So here's how that looks. Isn't that cool? Right, so the typeface is a tool for you to create things with. And I think that is a beautiful tool. Okay, and this is a project by a student at MICA working with Urdu, which is a language that uses Arabic characters. And she's playing with the ornamentation of Arabic writing systems and playing with changing the strokes and the dimensions of the letters. Okay, now we're going to be in the nugget. Okay, you ready for a nugget? What is a nugget, anyway? Well, a nugget is like a precious piece of gold, right? Something small but valuable that we dig out of the earth. We talk about nuggets of wisdom, right? Which is like a incredible, compact philosophical statement in a single sentence that we can't forget, like the metaphor of the crystal goblet. And of course, there are nuggets of food, also golden, also valuable. And so each nugget, like, it's something that holds together as a thing, right? A blob of sorts. And if we look at typography, typography is all nuggets. So every word is a nugget, and that's why we use spacing, right, to make sure that it holds together as a nugget. A headline is a nugget, right? We want that whole group of words to hold together as a thing. And a paragraph is a nugget, right? An object, a blob, a thing. So I like to go nugget hunting and look for evidence of nuggets in the world. These are some experimental nuggets by Hans Rudolf Lutz, who's an incredible Swiss graphic designer. And he studied like vernacular magazines and newspapers and advertising circulars and just blacked in the nuggets, right? And we can just see that that's typography just from this pattern of nuggets, right? Or the artist Marcel Broters, who drew these nuggets. And we can just tell that that's like speech, right? That's content just from the shape of those kind of cookie-like structures. I walk around my neighborhood looking for nuggets. This is a beautiful old sign that's been painted over 1 million times, and you can hardly see the lettering anymore, but those gold nuggets, they hang in there. And then this is a nugget fail. There's a guy in my neighborhood who's very obsessed with people not throwing dog poop in his trash cans. And so he has all these signs on his garage. He also has a lot of trash cans. He's at a lot of risk for this problem. And he has all these signs telling you what kind of behavior you should be doing. And I see this sign, and maybe it's just me, but there's something about the alignment of the text where the nuggets are just not working, that I read this as do not poop in my trash bin, right? Something about that edge there. And I'm like, dude, I would love to poop in your trash bin, but the guy's got cameras. I just can't risk that. Nuggets are very important in typography, and they get more complicated when we have letters of different sizes. So let's look at making a nugget out of this headline, right? So this is metric kerning. You already learned how to kern. Metric kerning comes with the font. And it looks okay, but this headline is big. So maybe we'll try optical kerning, right? It's just, okay, there's metric, just a little more nuggety. Okay, would ordinary people notice this? No. The muggles, they don't get it. We get it, right? That is more nuggety, but we can be more nuggety yet. We need to make the line spacing better. So auto line spacing is designed for text, right? For big chunks of paragraphs so that none of the letters ever touch each other. But when we make a headline, that space between lines gets too big. And that is just not nuggety. So we want to make it tighter. See how much better that is? Right, so next time you look at a headline in your graphic design and go, something isn't quite right here. Why does it not look cool? Just tighten up the line space. Cheapest thing, okay? And then the other problem with auto line spacing is that it just doesn't know what to do when you have big type and little type together. And so the headline, the lines are too far apart, but then the author's name is too close. So we have bad nuggets appearing, right? So we want to tighten up the line spacing of the headline, and then we want to move down the author's name, a little baseline shift, we call that. Just move that down a little bit so that now we have the title is a nugget, the author is a nugget. You get this? This is legend. I mean, this will fix your graphic design, okay? So that's bad nugget, good nugget. Got it? Bad nugget, good nugget. And so you just need to start. Yes, I made all these nuggets. You need to start doing a nugget analysis of your work, a nugget audit, if you will, and just ask yourself, are the things that are supposed to go together holding together as little blobs, or are they falling apart and merging into other things that don't belong with them? Very simple. Okay, you learned it here. Okay, we ready for a battle scene? You with me? This is tough. Okay. So if the alphabet had been designed in the 20th century, it would have no capital letters. This guy, Herbert Bayer, he was a student at the Bauhaus and then a teacher, and he created this alphabet where he said, no capital letters. Why? I can't hear them, right? And the alphabet is all about turning sound into little characters. And they make fonts more expensive, right? Because I need 2 sets instead of just 1. And then the worst thing is they put little kings into every sentence, right? There's this capital letter that's trying to boss around all the other letters. Little kings, little kings. And if you start looking at tweets and posts by some of our politicians, you'll see a lot of these little kings all in the sentences where they shouldn't be. So Herbert Bayer really wanted to get rid of capital letters. And there are some great examples of doing this. This is the sanitation truck in New York City. They used to be called garbage trucks. But this guy in the late 60s, he said, let's call it sanitation, and set it entirely in lowercase letters. Is that awesome? That is cool. So like, sanitation, sanitation, sanitation. Huh? Right? Pretty good. They still do this in New York. This is a keeper. But they messed up the spacing of the word sanitation. So look at that awesome, tight, cool, like Helvetica vibe from the 60s. And now it's got like too much tracking. Fail. Capital letters are a big part of our heritage and history, right? Gutenberg used them. Drop caps, they're the worst. They drop in for a beer and take over the whole page, you know? Lots of writing systems do not have the difference between capital and lowercase letters, such as most writing systems in the world. Don't need them. Don't need all those little kings. Why do we love capital letters? Well, like many things, it goes back to ancient Rome. Do we have some lovers of ancient Rome? Love it, love Gladiator. I see lots of not yes, love it, excellent. And so there's this monument in Rome called Trajan's Column, which has these beautiful capital letters carved on the base. And for thousands of years, these letters have served as a model for the Latin alphabet. You can read all about it in this really fascinating book. Love it. And typefaces have been designed based on those letters. This is by Frederick Goudy, who wrote a whole book about the letters on the Trajan's column. And he talks about these letters marching across Europe with the Roman Empire. So wherever the Romans went, they carved these beautiful capital letters into stone in towns and villages from the Middle East to the United Kingdom, right? All across Europe. And they became a kind of symbol of the empire. And we love them, and they're part of the heritage of Latin typography. So here's what Type Mom's calling. She wants you to hear her opinion of Trajan's column.
Oh no, it's Trajan's column. This war monument is why capital letters convey power and authority. Trajan's column is 10 stories high. At the very, very bottom are these letters, which inspired many beautiful typefaces across history. For centuries, designers have traveled to Rome to see and draw and touch Trajan's column. Recently, I went to Rome to see Trajan's column myself. Today, you can't touch the column, but seeing this giant monument made me feel the connection between power and capital letters. The Roman Empire spread these carved letters across Europe, showing dominance. Writing in all caps suggests power and strength. Lowercase brings it down a notch. Typography is power. Use it wisely.
Okay. Now, I don't want you to think I'm the kind of feminist who hates all capital letters. They don't have to be fascist. They can serve and protect. They can speak truth to power. But the kindest, gentlest capitals are small capitals. These are the ones that are designed to coordinate with the height of the X height of lowercase letters. So instead of bossing around the sentence, they enter into it, right? They're right there with everybody else having a conversation. And we can find them in the Open Type menu in our software. And I am starting a GoFundMe campaign to rename small caps Soft Boy Cabs. And here's a message from Type Mom about mistakes you can make with your small caps.
Oh no, it's small capitals. Small caps are similar in height to lowercase letters. Small caps have beautiful square proportions. Caps, small caps, lowercase. Small caps promote peace and happiness. Look for small caps in the Open Type menu. If your font family doesn't have small caps, your software can fake it by shrinking big letters. Uh-oh, these fake caps don't match. Please, don't try this at home.
Stinky. So stinky. Okay, we're going to go to the bottom of my junk drawer. We all have one like this, right? The drawer where all the stuff goes. And sometimes the content that we get from clients or the content we make ourselves looks like a junk drawer too. So I like to organize my content at the beginning of any project just like I would organize my junk drawer. So here's a bunch of random content. And I want to dump it all out on the ground and kind of make categories, right? Figure what goes with what things can be combined, what things can be eliminated, right? So cotton and crew sock, right? I can turn that into one thing. That looks better. I can get rid of some of these labels. That's a bunch of like visual clutter, right? I don't have to say name. I can just say Barbara. And maybe there's just some content that's none of your business. Just get rid of it. So I haven't designed anything, right? But I've already made my typography look better just by reorganizing the content. And now I can have fun, right? There's my before. It's better, right? Better way to live. Now I can start having fun adding styling to my text because my content is clean and orderly. So the first thing I want to do is make some type bigger and some type smaller, right? But you know what? It's very bland. It's still all too similar. So I want to make the big type even bigger and the small type even smaller, right? Create more contrast in my range of sizes. And then I can have fun adding some soft boy caps, some italics, right? Because I've got my scale right. Now I can start changing the fonts a little bit. Then the last thing I want to do is I want to move that little soft boy on the bottom up to the top, right? So one of the things I want you to think about in hierarchy is the biggest thing doesn't always have to be at the top. Sometimes you can make your type so much prettier and more elegant by putting something little at the top, right? A little announcement, a little entree to your content. And then you can add rules and, you know, alignment within the lines, so beautiful, little columns. So look at this beautiful design for The Cut, New York Magazine, The Cut. And we can see that little soft boy at the top, and then this bigger headline, and then a little underscore, right? I like to think of type making a sound like zit, bloop, zit. Nice. Okay, beautiful scale. Okay, we're near the end. I'm going to talk about dessert. Okay, we're going to look at what I call the ice cream theory of typography. So think about an ice cream sundae. We always start with a beautiful vessel, right? A glass, a goblet, something gorgeous to put our ice cream in. A page, a screen, a grid, a texture. Next, we add beautiful, digestible text, right? Stuff that people love to read. Problem is, no one wants to read 3 scoops of Garamond. You'll never make it to the bottom of the sundae. So that's why we add sauce. Sauce is intense and memorable and dramatic, and it breaks up all that vanilla with this amazing chocolate. So if you think about editorial design, right, that headline is the story, is the memorable part, and the text is what kind of carries us through the narrative. Now, when I work with my grad students at MICA, I find that they often think they're done when they have a great image and a great headline, something like this, right? It looks awesome. But what's missing is really the most important part of the ice cream sundae, which is the crunchy bits. This is your crushed peanuts, your rainbow sprinkles, your toasted coconut. It's the little details that really pull the piece together. And when you start adding those details to your work and giving the same care and attention to those details as you do to the big headline, your work is going to look so cool. And here's some examples of some beautiful crunchy bits. Often they appear around the edges. It's captions, it's little numbers, it's interface elements. It has styling, it has detail. It's the menu. Look at these beautiful page numbers like in the middle of the book on this gorgeous strawberry ice cream paper. These little bits like that page number that makes a bracket at the edge of the left-hand page, this stuff will give crunch to your typography. So love your crunchy bits, learn to kern, and please, just nugget. Thank you from Type Mom.
Thank you so much. I'm here. Thank you so much.
Hi, Schwan.
I'm here, taking photos. Taking some photo of nuggets.
I know you guys were struggling with the sunlight coming into your eyes. If we did this in February, that wouldn't be a problem, right? Hi.
Hi. All right, thank you so much, Alan, for this wonderful presentation.
I love being here with you.
Now we are entering Q&A session. If anybody have a question, I'm going to just pass this mic around for you to ask Alan a question or two.
Right here.
So the same as live stream too, you guys can like type in the chat, and I can just read a question.
So obviously you've talked a lot about like, type and like kerning and stuff like that. And I know in your writing you've also talked a lot about like systems of symbolism, like the isotype system, for instance. Do those count as like another canon of like script writing for intents and purposes, such as kerning, organization, small capitals, something like that?
Okay, so your question is about isotype. Isotype was a system of pictograms invented in the 20s to create infographics. And they're really the origin of like the bathroom symbols and symbols that you see at the airport and icons used in websites, like to buy things, the shopping cart, all that kind of stuff. Those are all designed to look like and behave like typography. And there are indeed whole fonts, literally, that are typefaces made of characters. But even the ones that are just drawn in Illustrator are still emulating typographic values. Like often they have a single line weight. They want to look like Helvetica. Imagine an icon that looks like Baskerville instead, and suddenly you might have like a different design approach, just like that. Or icons that look like Comic Sans, what would they look like? Right? So we have certain assumptions that we make about how icons should be designed and what makes them correct. And indeed, those assumptions come from typography, and you can play with them. I love your question. Thank you. See a question.
So I was looking at like the different studies of the different characters in different languages and stuff. Did you find that just like from what you learned that they held the same typographical principles, or do you think that there was a lot different? Because I was almost wondering like, there's not a lot of Adobe fonts for other languages from what I've noticed. Like, unless you download them. I think in the preset, there's like maybe a couple. But I was gonna say, do you think that like, the same type of bad font in like Latin lettering would be the same type of bad font in like, I don't know, Arabic or like...
Yeah, well, that is a huge topic. There are typefaces like Noto, which is a free Google font that you can download for free, that has almost every language on the planet represented, or I don't want to oversell the Google people, but it has hundreds of languages. And they're all designed to look like the Latin one. So they all look good together because they all look like the Latin font. And so there's a lot of typeface designers today working with non-Latin alphabets who are saying, no, we want to, let's say, make the Chinese character be dominant and then create a Latin alphabet that looks good with it. So it's all about like what your focus is. Many writing systems have unique typographic qualities, like certainly Chinese, or Korean, which is one of the only ones that was designed by a designer, because it's fairly recent. It was designed in the 15th century. So it's like a complete rational system because it was created all at once. So anyway, it's a big topic, but like yes and no, right? Good, thank you.
Yay, all the way on the back. I'm coming. Here we go. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for talking. It was a great presentation. This might be a hard question, but do you have a favorite typeface?
That's like saying, do I have a favorite child?
I know, yeah.
I do actually have a favorite typeface. It's called Scala, and it was designed in the early 90s when I was first discovering typography, so it's, like a coming-of-age font. And it's just like a really beautiful Dutch typeface with beautiful, like very geometric serifs, but it's also very humanist. And it's designed by Martin Mayor, and a few years later, he made a sans serif that goes with it. So it's a really nice example of a sans serif being designed to serve the serif, right? To honor her proportions. It's gorgeous. So Scala and Scala Sans, my fave.
Yeah, I had a question about dynamic fonts or not dynamic, sorry. You said variable font technology.
Yeah.
I'm an industrial designer. They actually told us about this when they merged the colleges. How do you see those like dynamic types working out for like product advertising or like just showing off and like communicating about or the things around?
So variable fonts is a fairly recent format, maybe like 10 years, not so recent anymore. And they were really created so that a website only has to download one font file that includes all the different weights, instead of having like 20 different font files. It's kind of a cool idea. But then what happens is that designers can create gradations of weight. And it's really fun for animation if you know how to do that, which I don't. So you guys, go animate. Love it, love it. Yeah, so that's what it does. And you're asking, does it uniquely express technology?
Well, yeah, because of how it's, like fonts used to be just letter blocks. And as we've moved digital, like when the first digital fonts came out, like Helvetica, every company had their own version of it. And with dynamic fonts, it finally has come to where you can just finally modify and you don't have to look at the tiny nuances between different fonts.
Well, a variable font is still a unique font. So there is like a variable version of Helvetica. It's called Helvetica now. So it's still a unique font. It's not going to change that problem of like shitty versions of fonts that get passed around. It's just a new kind of tool that allows the graphic designer to customize the font as you use it in a different way. Yeah, so definitely try it. But it won't solve all your problems. You still have to know what you're doing, maybe even more so. Like, I think they're very challenging to work with.
Thank you. We have room for 1 to 2 questions.
Nice.
Hello.
Hi.
So in regarding your small type or small caps renaming campaign to soft boy.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm with it.
I'm accepting donations.
So this isn't meant to be a stumper or anything like that, but what would you call an all cap soft boy cap?
You mean full-size caps? That's
Well, I guess technically it would be all.
so most fonts already come with capital letters.
Yeah.
They're just called capital letters.
Yes.
And they're inspired by the letters on Trajan's column. And so they're supposed to be bigger, taller, stronger. They dominate the lowercase letters. They also have a different proportion. They kind of have a narrower proportion. And to me, the real beauty of small caps is not just that they look cute with their lowercase friends, but that they're a little bit wide. They have a nicer shape. What do I call the other ones? Just capital letters. Are you looking for something like
Curious,
trucker
if
letters?
they're-
Or?
No. If they were all the same height, just using that single height, but
Oh,
they
that's
were-
called unicase. This is an abomination. Unicase is where someone creates a font where some letters look like let's say the A looks like capital A, but the B looks like lowercase b. And it's really bad looking. And so the designer chooses like, which is the ideal form for each letter, generally to get rid of ascenders and descenders, which are a pain in the ass, right? And that definitely would not have been included if a graphic designer had invented the alphabet. We would not have all this up and down nonsense. So unicase like gets rid of all that, but still has like lowercase letters in it. Look it up. You're not
Thank you.
gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left. So we can make 1 question. Alan, what is the next book that you're planning to publish?
Oh, thank you for asking me that. Well, I've gotten really into baking, and now it's my turn to do what I want to do, So I'm working on a book called Baking with Color, which is a color theory book, all the stuff you learned in your freshman color class, but related to baking cookies and cakes. She likes it. Okay?
Well,
It's so cool. Natural color, artificial color. I'm going pure RFK on this. Okay, enough of that.
let us know when it's on pre-sale.
Okay. Just nugget, y'all.
Thank you. Well, if you guys have a book that bring here today, and for Alan, I know some of you guys have the Thinking with Type book or other book that was written by Alan. So, do you have time to sign their book? Yeah, she has like a special seat over there. All right, have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming.